Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and kick things off. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. We appreciate your attendance. Could I request a motion to approve the minutes? Okay, second. Thank you. We'll start things off with introduction of any special guest, if any of you that would like to introduce anyone with you.
I brought some ladies from Lakeland Insurance today. We actually have a CMC practice management team, and they're on it, so they're here to see how the program goes. So I have Barb Flee, Barb Oakenthus, and Chris Helpner here.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, I missed a couple. I missed Jean Fisher and Canyon.
Thank you.
That's okay.
Thanks for coming. Anyone else? Yes.
I'm Doug Watson with MRB Banks. We're a member, and I've already asked Gary Romine.
Okay.
He's the chairman of our.
Welcome. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Well, we have a real good program for you today, and we're going to turn things over to Dina.
Okay, quickly before we bring up Howard as our speaker, we're going to run through a couple old business items. One of them is annual banquet. We talked about it last month. Didn't have any concrete information for you, but we do now. Annual banquet will be held on April 20th, which is, I think this is our 87th banquet. So we're pretty excited about that. What we're very excited about, though, is that it's going to be held out at Chalmette Winery. We had some very impressive bids come our way this year, and it's very hard for our committee to decide where we were going to go. So we're very excited that Chalmette is our venue for that. $25 a person, and there will be tickets available at the chamber office beginning March 26th. These are, and you can reserve tables again like last year, but these tables this year are not 8 toppers, they are 10 toppers. So you will, if you have, you want to bring 10 people, then that's what you'll reserve a table of 10. We will be doing centerpieces as well, so if your company is used to contributing a centerpiece for one of the tables, then be expecting a phone call from probably Jennifer or Mary Beth. They're our centerpiece gals, so they'll be working on you here shortly, I'm sure. One of the biggest things that we're very excited about this year is that Chalmette has giving us an opportunity that they're sponsoring several giveaways as a chamber fundraiser. And by that, we will be doing a raffle that evening for 11 different giveaway baskets. And the value of this is well exceeds almost over $1,000 actually of what they're giving us. They're giving 2 getaway packages, which are 2 overnight stays in their villas, complete with breakfast for 2 in their villa with a bottle of wine chilling in the villa upon your arrival. They're giving away 2 of those. They're giving away 2 dinners for 2 at the Grapevine Grill. They're giving away 2 lunches for 2 at the Grapevine Grill, and several bottles of wine. So we're going to have a collaborative effort of different baskets that we're going to be offering, and you'll have an opportunity to do a raffle. The raffle tickets are $5 each, or $5 each. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have bowls at each one of the baskets, and you can put as many tickets in those bowls that you want to do. So, Betty, you're shaking your head now.
I thought we decided we were going to give the greatest value gift on down.
I'm sorry,
So the raffle, the greatest value of the gift would be the first prize, rather than having them all set out.
I don't remember that. Well, we'll go back to our notes and look at those details. But look forward to more of that information coming in the newsletter. This is very generous on Chalmette's proposal to us to give our members the opportunity to have these kinds of giveaways at our events. Of course, the centerpieces that are all donated as well will be given away at the end of the night, as they usually are every year. So we're very excited about that. So, are there any questions on annual banquet? Okay. 2012 membership dues are getting ready to be issued this month. You'll probably be seeing your invoice and your updated information sheet in the mail within probably the next week or so. So watch for that in the mail. It's very important that you update your information. Contacts have probably changed at your place of business. For example, MRV Banks, for example, Doug is now a new contact person there. So we want to make sure that we have your correct information on all of your business information. So we have it correct on our database, on all of our mailings and our emails and addresses and things like that. So it's very important that you return that information back to us. The summer concert series, tickets are still going very well. If you have tickets that you want to get for a certain show, I would definitely be calling the office because we've been selling tickets like crazy. So I can't guarantee that a certain show will be available if you're wanting them at that later in the game. We've been getting a lot of feedback on the concert series, and I think that's because we're doing a lot of radio interviews. A lot of newspapers and magazines have picked us up. Just yesterday I did an interview with 417 magazine out of Springfield, Missouri. They heard about us off of one of the performers' websites. So we're kind of starting to get the word around, and it's nice that people are talking about St. Genevieve and wanting to come to our area to see such a show. Not just a show, but to kind of come into the community and take in the community with our homes and our B&Bs and our wineries, and then actually, if they're going to be in here for a show, to actually take in a show too. So we're pretty excited about that. An announcement. I have one announcement I wanted to clarify real quick. I think it was Tuesday. I got a really strange phone call about a circus coming to town. And I wanted to clarify this with the school district because they were the ones who were sponsoring it, so to speak. So I want to clarify that it's not the school district actually sponsoring it. It's sponsored by the SGChamberofCommerce chapter of National Education Association, which is an educators group. They are coming to town. The Kelly Miller Circus is coming to town, and contact point is Melissa Otto. She's been working with this group. She brought me some information about the event, and it is going to be held April 20th as well. 2 shows at 4:30 and 7:30, and adult tickets are $10 and kids tickets are $6. So she did say that if you see some clowns around town, there are going to be some clowns around town April 5th, visiting some schools, daycares, the shopping center, and other places of business. That's why they're in town. So it's kind of a heads up there on the city part. But with so many things at the chamber, we get so many phone calls on so many different things about certain events coming into the community. It's very important for us to call and check those out before we just start advertising and publicizing them, because we want to make sure that we have all the correct information. So of course, my very first thought was to call, Mr. Haney at the high school and say, hey, is there a circus coming to town that we're not aware of? So he was very helpful in helping me get all of the information correct and make sure that we have everything line itemed and out in the community the right way. So if you see posters going up, that is what's going on, and that is correct. And if you have questions, Melissa, she would be happy to answer any questions. So with that, I don't have any other business. Is there any other announcements that need to be made? No? I know that there's a wedding show coming up, Midwest Marketing sponsoring with Weingarten Vineyard coming up in March. Is it this month? March 11th?
From 1 to 4.
1 to 4, Weingarten Vineyard.
Yes.
$5 admission to get in?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Anything else you want to share about that?
No, everything's going really well. We've got about 20 plus vendors coming, so it should be a pretty diverse crowd. If you have anybody getting married or just want to plan a party.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Well, I'll go on to our speaker here. We have with us Mr. Howard Dohat. He is originally from St. Genevieve County Health Department. He is currently the emergency response planner for the department. Prior to his career with the health department, he served 20 years in the United States Air Force, retiring in 1992. Also, he served his community as the Chief Deputy with the St. Genevieve County Sheriff's Office for 17 years, retiring in 2009. With that, I present to you our guest speaker, Mr. Howard Doha.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. I know that you just had lunch. I hope that you don't feel like you have to take an afternoon nap. But if you do, then so be it. Take your afternoon nap. This would probably be the time and the place for it. We're going to talk today about emergency preparedness and how to go about it. It's a simple process, and it has to be simple because if it wasn't, most people wouldn't do it. It's hard enough to get people to do it as it is. And so we will be talking about that. We did give you a handout today, a bag that contains some items in it. I would like to talk about some of those items briefly, and we'll help you to understand better of what they are. This first item that I'd like to talk about is the sheet here. I would like to stress one thing about this sheet. When I put this together, the thing that I had in mind was I was just trying to get somebody to imagine what they would need in their kit. This is by no means inclusive. It's just something to get your mind working as to what do I need in my family's hit and run kit, if we want to call it that. Because it may, well, in fact, be your hit and run kit. You may have to take it and go. So, with that in mind, like I said, just some of these items you'll need, some you may not. Other items you might need that are not on this list. So it's just something, like I said, to get you started. The next item we have is the booklet. We get these booklets from Jefferson City. This is a pretty nice booklet, and it's for planning for emergencies. It's 3 steps to be prepared, a family safety guide. And it more or less kind of goes along with the video that we're going to watch here in just a few minutes. We have the emergency checklist, which is the insert that's in there, this one right here. This is a 2-sided card. On the side that I'm on is the emergency kit checklist. Again, it's just in checklist format. Listen for information. Know the evacuation plans for your workplace, for your home. You need a plan for your home, believe it or not. If you have children, they need to know what to do so they don't panic, so you don't panic. And as it says towards the bottom of the page, discuss this information with your entire family. That's very, very important. And a lot of people don't do that. When I talk with young people, I'll ask them if their family gets together and talks about disaster type information, and they tell me 9 times out of 10 they tell me no. And that really is what we're trying to fix. It's a system that's broken. We need to fix it. And the only people that can fix it are all of us in this room. And the people outside this room, we need to go forth and multiply when it comes to fixing this problem. We escaped narrowly another disaster in Branson the other night. And if some of those folks, we got lucky there. If some of those folks would have had plans, it might have worked out a little bit better for some of those people that had a rough time with it. questions so far? All right, what I would like to do is go ahead and start the video and let it kind of speak for itself. And then when we're done with that, we'll go into presentation a little bit more, answer any questions you may have, and we'll go from there.
The person in my life is my husband.
In an emergency, the first people that would come to my mind would be my children and my wife.
If something were to happen, my son would be the first person that would come to mind.
The most important person to me would be my son, Jack.
My brother, my mother, my father immediately, comes to mind.
My daughter, Allison.
Our kids are a little bit older, they're 19 and 15, but yes, they do still rely on us if anything happens.
Definitely, I'd be concerned about my brother in an emergency.
My son, Samuel, and he definitely is the most important thing in my life.
Who is nearest and dearest to your heart? If an emergency happens in your community, who or what comes to mind first? Who would need you most? Let's face it, if disaster strikes, emergency drills and strategies aren't going to be the first things to enter your mind. Your loved ones will. They are the reason for emergency preparedness. But what if you're at work when something happens? How will you get in touch with the people who mean the most to you, and how will you get to them? There's no way of knowing what type of crisis might happen or when it will strike, but there are 3 easy steps that will help you take control of any tragic situation, from a terrorist attack to a tornado. First, create a plan for you and your family. Second, prepare an emergency kit. And third, listen for information about what to do and where to go during an actual emergency. The program is called Ready in 3, and it will help get you and your family ready for anything. So many workplaces across the state of Missouri, and each one has its own specific needs when it comes to emergency preparedness. Still, there are some basic steps every employee can take to plan for an emergency. And believe me, it's a lot easier than our friend Bunker Bob makes it. The first step is to create an emergency plan. Chances are your employer already has a policy in place. Make sure you know what that plan is, whether you need to evacuate the building or stay put. If you are asked to stay in the building, there are a few things to keep in mind. If there are clients, customers, or visitors in the building, ask them to stay and let them know where to go. Hopefully, your employer has already determined a safe room or rooms for everyone to gather. It should be an interior room with the fewest windows or vents and large enough for the designated group. It should also have a landline telephone and emergency supplies. If you can, close and lock all windows and doors in your office on your way out, and grab your personal emergency kit and take it with you. Also, if you have time, forward your calls to your cell phone or a phone in the safe room in case family members are trying to reach you. If you are able to call out and reach your loved ones, remember to keep your calls to a minimum and keep conversations short so others can get through. Of course, some emergencies will call for an evacuation of the premises, forcing you and your co-workers to a meeting place outside your building where everyone can gather. Find out your company's building evacuation plan and pay attention during drills. Part of the plan also lies in your hands. Have an alternate means of transportation and plan alternate routes for getting to and from work in case your normal mode of transportation is interrupted. It's also a good idea to talk to co-workers with special needs and ask if they need any help. People with disabilities typically know what assistance they will need in an emergency. Whether you stay or go, your loved ones are going to be at the top of your mind. Let's hear the stories from some other Missourians to see if we can learn from their experiences.
My brother and I bought walkie-talkies for my parents because they're always out on the land by themselves. Actually, one time they were injured on the land. Both of them were in the same accident, and my brother and I didn't even know about it for well, weeks until we saw my mom with stitches in her face, you know.
It was like a rainstorm, it was lightning, thundering, it was like the worst kind of weather. And we were driving and my sister just up and said out loud, she's like, "Isn't there a dip here?" We hit this thing, went down, water started coming in the car. I tried to open the door, that sunk us even further, so we all ended up having to basically swim out of the biggest puddle in the world.
Our oldest boy got home from school first and called me on his cell phone and said, "I think we've been broken into. There's something wrong with the house. There's stuff all over the house." Well, luckily, he wasn't in the house. He was outside. He had gone back outside. I said, "Stay outside. Call the police on your cell phone. I'm on my way home."
The entire neighborhood lost power, and we had a full restaurant, and we had, full staff here. So we had to basically take care of getting the kitchen shut down, talking with the customers, getting them out safe.
I have family in Columbine, and at the time they had students in high school. Now, it happened to be another high school, but that was a situation where the family communication network went into place, and we had to make sure everyone was okay, and luckily everyone in both those situations were.
About a month ago, there was an incident that happened at the Praxair plant down about 4 blocks away. It was in the middle of the afternoon one day. There's fireballs shooting from this plant and cars on fire and the whole street shut off, and just kind of painted this chaotic picture for us. And here we are 3 blocks away with clients during our workday, wondering what in the world is going on. Our cell phones the service wasn't working, and probably because of the explosion, everyone in my family was trying to get a hold of me, but couldn't because they couldn't get through on my cell phone because we have no service at all.
There are so many things we cannot control, but there are some we can. Sit down with your family and try to think of as many emergency scenarios as possible. Who can pick up your kids if you can't get there? Who should your family members call if you are all separated when disaster strikes? The Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services has a family safety guide and family plan that can walk you through the simple process. But here are some of the basics. Your family plan should include contact information for family members, a meeting place where you can reunite if something happens while you're not together, and an out-of-town friend or family member for everyone to call in case your family is separated and local phone lines are down. You'll also want to decide on a safe room in your home and an evacuation location where your family can stay if you can't stay at home. It's a good idea to make copies of your family plan for each family member to keep with them. That way, everyone has it when they need it, and you won't have to rely on your memory in a tense situation. To request a copy of the Family Safety Guide and Family Plan, you can call 573-526-4768. At the very least, having a family plan in place helps calm anxieties before and during an emergency. At the most, it can reunite a family or even save lives. The second step in being prepared is to have an emergency kit. You never know where you're going to be when trouble hits, so ideally you should have a kit at home for your family and other smaller ones in your car and at work. The Family Safety Guide lists everything you need for your emergency kits. Here are some of the basic items you should try to have on hand in your desk or your locker. You should have some bottled water and non-perishable food. A flashlight and battery-powered radio will also be helpful in case of a power outage. And don't forget to pack some extra batteries. You should also consider keeping a change of clothes and a pair of strong, practical shoes or boots. No telling how much walking you'll have to do in case of an evacuation. This kit should be in one container and ready for you to grab and go in case you're evacuated in a hurry. It's a good idea to check out whether your employer already has some emergency supplies stored for you and your colleagues. After all, if they have a first aid kit tucked away, that's one less thing for you to worry about. Let's take a look as a few Missouri workers show us what's in their emergency kits.
So, I have a kit in this drawer. I have a flashlight, which is important in case you lose electricity. A couple of cans of vegetables with a pop top. I have some peanut butter. I have some batteries, which I need for my radio to listen to alerts. Some V8 juice. Here's a couple of packages of salmon. Easily, I can eat it right out of the package. Here's some asthma medicine that I have a spare of. And then I have a change of clothes, tennis shoes.
Just in case we lose power, I've got a radio and a TV. If one of them goes out, I should be able to get information from one or the other. I also keep a little bit of food and water in here just in case. There's a couple bottles of water, and I have 2 cans of soup and a little bit of chocolate.
We do keep Band-Aids and first aid creams and burn creams because burns in the kitchen can happen quite a bit.
We also have, beverages and first aid kits and all of the above. Maybe some walking shoes downstairs so if we had to run, no one's in high heels trying to run down the street.
One of the things I keep on hand at the office is my medicine that I take on a daily basis. You never know when I might be stuck here or not be able to get home.
In my emergency kit, I have a large trash bag that can be used as a tarp or to keep any of my stuff dry. I also have a blanket, comfortable shoes since we're in a high-rise building, Kleenex, sunscreen, a sewing kit. I have sanitizer, and I keep them all in a backpack that's easy to grab quickly when I have to evacuate.
Each person's needs are slightly different, so their kits will differ too. The best thing to do is to start looking around your house for items on the list. You'll be surprised at how many of them you already have. After all, you don't need to spend a lot to be safe. The final step to being ready in 3 is to listen for information. Your supervisor will have specific instructions for you and your colleagues should disaster strike during the work week. Your job is to follow your employer's instructions calmly. After all, once you have your emergency plan and kit together, you'll be ready for such a situation. Of course, if you work in critical services like a hospital or utility company, a lot more might be asked of you. In that case, adhering to your boss's requests becomes particularly important for your own well-being as well as that of the public. You can trust that our public officials have plans in place for these types of situations and are monitoring our safety 24/7. Julie Eckstein is director of the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services, and she's here to explain how the state has things under control.
Welcome to the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services Situation Room. I can't tell you where this room is or even show you the outside of the building because this location is top secret. But if an emergency happens in the state of Missouri, our Public Health Action Plan starts behind these doors. The Department Situation Room, or DSR as we call it, is the central location for monitoring and reporting potential problems. We have people on staff here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Emergency information comes to us in several different ways. First, we have a hotline that anyone can use to call to report a public health problem or something they think might be an emergency. Second, we partner with local public health agencies, doctors, hospitals, and law enforcement who all know to call us if they suspect there's a public health emergency or a bioterrorism event. And finally, we are constantly monitoring many different things. For example, our computer system tracks the emergency rooms in hospitals across the state. Folks here always have their radar up, ready to determine when we have an emergency on our hands. Sometimes things might be obvious, like if a bomb explodes. But other times, like if there are a lot of people sick at once, it may not be as obvious. That's why we team up with others to constantly monitor so we know as soon as possible if there's a problem. We work with the FBI, Homeland Security, the State Emergency Management Agency, local police, and others, including the governor, to determine the best response. Our response to an emergency depends on the kind of emergency we are dealing with. The state of Missouri has plans in place for all types of crises, and we've conducted many practice drills for everything from chemical spills to lots of people getting sick and needing medicine all at the same time. But no matter what the type of emergency, a few things always stay the same. We always work with state and local law enforcement and also notify TV, radio stations, and newspapers.
DSR to OPI, over.
That's why it's so important for everyone to listen for instructions.
Thanks, Julie. It's good to know that local, state, and federal agencies have plans to protect us all. But remember, you are responsible for your own safety. Thinking and planning ahead is the best line of defense for any emergency. Don't get carried away like Bunker Bob, but do take an active role in you and your family's safety by creating a plan, preparing a kit, and listening for information. And once you do, be sure to check your plan and your kit every now and then to make sure everything is still good. Whether at home or at work, remember to stay alert because emergencies can happen anytime to anyone. And now you are just 3 easy steps away from being ready in 3.
Problem?
Wait.
Let's face it, emergencies happen.
It can be a tornado, house fire, flood, or terrorist attack.
We're not trying to freak you out or anything, because being scared of something that might not even happen is just plain silly.
But being prepared in case it does is just plain smart.
Smart and easy. In fact, there are just 3 steps you need to take to be ready for anything. 1, create a plan for you and your family.
2, prepare an emergency kit.
And 3, listen for information about what to do and where to go during an actual emergency.
We call it Ready in 3.
And that's what this program is all about.
Ready in 3. Ready in 3. Ready in 3. Ready in 3.
Emergency preparedness starts at home.
Our homes might be different, but the first step in getting them ready for a crisis is the same no matter where you live. You've got to have a plan.
What will you do? Where will you go? Who will you call?
Believe me, you are way better off answering those questions now, so you and your family got it together. Otherwise, confusion could turn a critical situation into chaos.
If you can, sit down with your family to decide on a plan. Dream up as many possible problems as you can, and together, come up with an answer for each. Like, do you have an emergency supply kit on hand? You'll need one if the electricity goes out and you're stuck in the house for a few days, or even longer.
Do you have a designated safe room in case of a chemical attack? Pick a room with the fewest windows and doors and enough space inside for your whole family.
Sometimes, it may not be safe to stay in your own home. You should plan several different evacuation routes. If If you're driving, remember to keep your car windows and vents closed and turn off the air conditioning and heat. Also, remember to bring your pets and emergency kit with you.
Once you've got the house thing covered, think about other situations. How will you respond to an emergency in the middle of a school day?
You and your loved ones need to think about how you will get in touch with each other and where you can meet. You should plan where you will go and how you will get there.
If you have parents who work or brothers and sisters at different schools, just getting in touch with each other could be a challenge. Make sure each of you has a list of phone numbers for each other and think about making one friend or family member the main contact for all of you.
Hey, did you know that sometimes during an emergency, it's easier to make a long-distance phone call instead of a local call? In that case, it'd be better to choose an out-of-town person to connect separated family members.
Different lives need different plans. We thought it would be cool to see how other families are dealing with their own unique situations. Check it out.
If we have a fire, we have windows to push out and we can get out there.
We would meet outside my house if anything would happen inside the house and try and go to a neighbor's house or a friend that lives close.
If there's a tornado, we go in the basement to a bathroom, which has no windows.
We have food in this little cabinet. So in case we have to stay down there for a while, we can eat. And there's a bed kind of thing down there on the TV.
My family has an emergency kit in the car with water, food, flares.
If something happens when I was at school and my mom was at work, then usually our neighbors, since who are mostly at home, they'll call the leasing office, and the leasing office will call my mom, and my mom will call the school and have our grandparents come and pick us up early.
I keep a cell phone in a little duffel bag in my classroom so that my brother and I can use it to call my mom and just alert her that we're okay.
We would call my Aunt Donna if the power was out in Florissant, my city, because she lives way in O'Fallon, so she would be able to contact people if we needed her to. If the power was out around the state, we would probably try and contact my Aunt Joni, who lives in Florida.
No matter which plan of action you take, make sure you use common sense. Watch TV or listen to the radio to get as much info as possible.
Listen to your teachers or your parents as they put emergency plans into place. And above all, stay cool. There's no reason to panic because state officials have things under control, and you have a plan.
The second step in being prepared is to have an emergency kit. What happens if you don't have enough food in the house and you can't get to the store for days or weeks? What if the electricity isn't working and you can't cook anything? Worse, the food in the fridge goes bad. Getting an emergency kit together is really easy, and it makes life a lot easier down the road should something ever happen. A great way to start on your kit is by taking a look at the Family Safety Guide. If you don't already have one, just email info@dhss.mo.gov and the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services will send you a booklet. Or you can visit the Radiant 3 section of their website and order copies of your own. It has this handy emergency kit checklist inside, so you know just what to look for. The checklist has a ton of specifics, but let's just go over the basics, starting with food and water. You want to store at least 3 gallons of water for each member of your house. That's a gallon a day for 3 days. Don't forget to change your stored water supply every 6 months. Next, you want to pack away plenty of canned and dry foods. Oh, and don't forget the can opener. During an emergency, it will be very important for you to listen for information about what to do and where to go. So make sure you pack away a battery-powered radio, plenty of extra batteries, a flashlight, and a first aid kit. Also, make sure you have a list of medication for those family members who need to take medicine regularly. Make sure you keep your kit in a container that's easy to carry in case you have to leave home. Try a large bag like this, a plastic container, or a trash can with a lid. Now, as I mentioned, these are just the basic kit supplies for your home. You should also think about adding a kit to your car and throwing in some things like a deck of cards to give you something to do. Or toilet paper for, well, that goes without saying, right? There's a ton more that you'll want to include, but I don't want to bore you with the details. You're better off checking the list in the back of the book yourself and watching these guys have a little bit of fun with the idea.
We are on location at a local store for the first ever emergency kit challenge. I'm joined here by 2 teams of 2, brothers Cedric and Alan, who will be making a kit for themselves, their mom, and their dog, and sisters Megan and Rachel, who have themselves as well as their mom and dad to think about. Each of them has 20 minutes and $35 to buy the items they need to create a home emergency kit. Before the time clock hits 0, you need to work together to decide which items you and your family need most, find those items, check out using $35 or less, and make it back here to this spot. That's when Brian Quinn steps in. Brian is our judge from the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services and will be deciding which team got the best kit for their money. The winning team will get $50, $25 each for another shopping spree of your own. But win or lose, both teams get to keep the items they buy today for their emergency kit. So now you have your money, you have your family safety guide, which lists all the items you need to buy. Now you just need for me to say, go!
Turn. Winnie.
So I guess should we go down that way? Okay.
Let's go.
Toothpaste. Okay, get it. Okay, let's just get a big pack. Something. Do you know where we could find flashlights?
We gotta go to electronics for the radio.
Red and yellow teams, you have 10 minutes.
We dog food.
Oh my gosh. Grab it right here. 15 cents. Just get a washcloth.
Some dogs are picky.
5 minutes left for the emergency kit challenge. Red and yellow teams, get to the checkout.
Get to check out. Come on.
Come on, push.
Decisions. Now, let's see what you've got. Brian, what do you think?
Well, let's take a look at what each team has, and we'll kind of go through it item by item. Looks like you have some food, water. We want to make sure that you pack enough water for each member of the family for about 3 days each. Looks like you have some radios for some communication, some jelly. Oh, good. You remembered dog food. Appears that you all have a dog, so it's important to think of every member of the family. And power bars. Good to think about nutrition and things that will keep for a long time without refrigeration, easily packable, and good to take along with you. Let's take a look at the other team and see what they've brought along. Okay. Looks like you got water. Again, it's important to remember to keep enough water on hand for every member of the family for about 3 days. So about a gallon a day per person. Some snacks, some hand cleaner, that's good. Shower and bath facilities may not always be available. You have plates, that's good. Looks like you have some first aid things in here, that's very important. Flashlight, very good thing to remember. Oftentimes in emergencies we lose our power. If you have to get out of the house or get out of the car in an emergency, it's very good to have a light source. Toilet paper, very good thing to remember. I think that speaks for itself. We also want to remind you that you're going to need more than this. We want to plan for about 3 days or longer to be away from your house, so you're going to need more food, you're going to need more water. So having said all that, I think I have decided on a winner, and it looks like the red team has the best variety of things and would like to present you with $50, $25 each. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Megan and Rachel. Have fun spending your prize money. And Cedric and Alan, thank you for taking the Emergency Kit Challenge. We had fun with all of you. Now, go home and show your families your new kits. Together, you might even think of something else to add. And here to help you with that is Becky.
Hey y'all, it's cool to get the most for your money when you're getting your emergency kit together, but it's even better to save that cash and find the stuff you need right in your own home. I've got the list of items right here in the Family Safety Guide. So let's start raiding the pantry and closets for some supplies. trash bags, pencil and paper, needle and thread, unopened peanut butter, granola bars, soap, batteries, some old hats, gloves, and scarves, even a waterproof container for our important family documents. You know, the more I find, the shorter my shopping list gets. Now, I may have to grab a few things at the store when I'm finished with this thing, but the point is to start your kid at home and save some dough for your college fund. Or better yet, your wardrobe fund.
We're outside the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services Situation Room. I can't tell you where it is or even show you the outside of the building. That's because this location is top secret. In case an emergency happens in the state of Missouri, the state's Public Health Action Plan starts right behind this door. I'm here with Julie Eckstein, the Director of the Department of Health and Senior Services, for an exclusive behind-the-scenes look at where it all goes down during an emergency. Julie, for starters, what happens in this room?
Well, hi, Garland, and welcome to our Department Situation Room, as we call it, the DSR for short. This is the central location where we provide all of the monitoring and potential reporting of any emergency that might occur. We have people working here 24/7, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
So, how do you know when something has happened?
Well, really, there are 3 different ways that we utilize to gather information about potential events. First, we have a hotline, and the hotline calls are coming from anywhere. Anyone who thinks that there is some kind of emergency or potential emergency. Secondly, we partner with so many organizations, and those include local public health agencies, hospitals, doctors, and law enforcement. They all know to call in here if there's a potential public health event, bioterrorism event, or something similar. And then thirdly, we're constantly monitoring situations to find out what's going on in real time. One example of that is our computer system that allows us to monitor the emergency rooms in all of the hospitals statewide.
Now, how do you determine whether something is an emergency or not?
That's a really good question. Sometimes it's really obvious, like if a bomb explodes, we know immediately that there's a problem. But other times it might be a situation where there are a lot of people sick at once. So we have to constantly be monitoring and partnering with all of our local partners to assess those situations for emerging problems. We partner a lot with agencies like the FBI, Homeland Security, the State Emergency Management Agency, and even in touch with the governor for us to determine what is the best plan.
Let's say you know you have an emergency. Then what?
Well, our response really depends on what kind of emergency it is. But be assured, the state of Missouri has a plan to deal with any kind of emergency. First of all, we practice and drill for all of those kind of potential. We've practiced in case of a chemical spill, a situation where a lot of people need medication all at once. And no matter what kind of emergency, a few things always remain the same. First of all is our constant communication and partnership with local law enforcement. In addition to that, we always use all of our notification processes to work with the media to make sure TV, radio, and newspaper all know what's going on. That's why it's so critical for everyone to pay attention and listen for instructions.
Well, thank you very much, Julie Eckstein, for your time. And I would also like to thank you for giving us the inside scoop about what goes on behind the scenes.
So that's it. We've done our job of passing on what we know.
Now it's up to you to take it from here.
You've heard the term, knowledge is power. Well, the power comes from what you do with your knowledge.
Take control of your own safety and get ready in 3 by putting together a plan,
making a kit,
and listening for information when something really does go down.
And once you do, remember to check out your plan and your kit every now and then, just to make sure everything's still good.
Most of all, we'll hope you'll stay alert and remember, emergencies can happen anytime to anyone.
That's why it's cool that you're taking matters into your own hands so that you and the people you care about will be ready in 3.
Ready in 3. Ready in 3. Ready in 3. Ready in 3.
Ready in 3.
Ready in 3.
Ready in 3.
Ready in 3.
Ready in 3.
Ready in 3. Ready in 3.
Ready in 3.
Ready in 3.
Ready in 3.
Ready in 3.
Ready in 3. Ready in 3.
Ready in 3. Ready in 3.
You know how I
home safety, I'm ready in 3.
Does your car have a spare tire?
Does your home have a smoke detector or box of bandages in the medicine cabinet?
If so, then you have experience in preparing for an emergency.
These may seem like small things, but small things can save lives even during a big emergency.
There's no way of knowing what type of crisis might happen or when it will strike, but there are 3 easy steps you can take to make sure you are ready for anything, from a terrorist attack to a tornado.
1. Create a plan for you and your family. 2. Prepare an emergency kit. And 3. Listen for information about what to do and where to go during an actual emergency.
We call it Ready in 3.
Emergency preparedness starts at home.
Our homes might be different, but the first step in getting them ready for a crisis is the same no matter where you live. You must have a plan. What will you do? Where will you go? And who will you call?
These are questions that you and your family should answer now to cut down on confusion during a crisis. Let's watch as one Missouri family develops their plan.
We've got the contact information all taken care of. Now we need to work through a few of the details, some of the things that we'll do in case there's an emergency. So where do you think we all should meet if there was one?
Why we meet at the fire hydrant?
Meet at the fire hydrant?
Yeah.
Okay.
We need to have an alternate location.
Oh, alternate to the fire hydrant? How about if we met at the Starbucks at the corner?
All right, good. Okay, that sounds good.
Okay, good.
Let's say Dad's at the office, you 3 are at school, and I'm at work. What do you think? What would the first thing we would try to do? Probably call each other.
But if we can't get through, we ought to have a central point of contact. Who should that be?
I think it should be Uncle Jim.
Well, except for he's here local. And lots of times in an emergency, local lines might be tied up. Maybe we should try to pick somebody out of town.
I think Mimi and Papa would be good.
My folks? Yeah, we could call Mimi and Papa. That's probably a pretty good idea. They're usually home.
Okay, so we'd call Mimi and Papa.
That's good, but I don't have their number.
Oh, but that's why you'll have your plan with you, and you need to make sure you keep it in your backpack all the time, all right? If we're all here in the house and there's an emergency, what room do you think we should get together in?
How about the entry hall?
Well, I think one of the things is we want to try to be someplace where there aren't a lot of windows or a lot of exposure to outside.
Well, how about the kitchen? That wouldn't be a bad room. It only has one window. We'd have a refrigerator. The kennel's there for Birdie, the dog, so we can bring him up into that.
Let's figure out where we'd go in case we can't get back in our house in case of emergency. What's everybody think?
Within St. Louis?
Yeah, within St. Louis.
Well, what about your office?
Well, that's a good idea. It's in walking distance. We've filled all this out. We'll make copies, and everybody needs to make sure they keep a copy with them, right? So,
like in our wallets.
In your wallet or in your backpack, and not leave it in your locker at school. Just make sure you always have it with you, so you've got all the contact information.
Great. Okay, that sounds good.
Does your family have a plan?
Yes, we do. My kids go to an elementary school that is so close to our house. I can get there in less than 2 minutes. Also, if I'm not around, they know they can walk to the neighbor's house and wait for me there.
My mother has trouble getting around, so my brother and I have it worked out that if an emergency takes place during the day, it's his responsibility. If an emergency takes place during the evenings or the weekends, I take care of her.
That's great.
The important thing is to remember to take all family members into account. Know the emergency plans for your kids' schools. Make sure to include parents who may be in a retirement home, relatives or friends with special needs, and of course, the family pet.
Obviously, different lives need different plans, but you can follow the Mittens lead and start the same way by reading the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services Family Safety Guide and filling out the family plan with your own family. To request a copy, call 573-526-4768.
The second step to being prepared is to have an emergency kit. After all, what if you don't have enough food in the house and you can't make it to the store for days or weeks? Or what if your electricity isn't working? Getting an emergency kit together is really easy, and it will make your life a lot less complicated down the road should something ever happen. Let's visit Gina at home as she gets started on her own kit.
I've been looking through the emergency kit checklist in the Family Safety Guide, and I'm ready to start raiding my pantries and closets for supplies. Let's go. Wow, just look at all this stuff. I found some toilet paper, granola bars, flashlights, soap, heavy-duty tape, some trash bags, and even a waterproof bag to store my important family documents. Well, it seems like I did pretty well, but let's check with the expert. Brian Quinn with Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services is here with some tips.
Well, it looks like you did a good job of gathering items from around the house. Many times people are a little nervous about getting stuff around their house and starting an emergency response kit, but you've done a good job of bringing things together, and I think you've got a good start on that.
How about the food items? Did I choose the right things?
You do have some good items here. It's good to have protein sources like peanut butter. It's good to have things that are quick and easy to fix, and so things like soup are good. Canned items, things that are going to last over time and keep well and not spoil. You did a good job putting in the manual can opener. That's great. Something some people forget to throw in, and then they have to open a can and can't get to it.
I tried to pick nutritious foods. I would have loved to have just had candy bars and potato chips. My kids would have loved that, but that's probably not a good idea, is it?
Well, actually, it's not a bad idea. Of course, you can't live for 3 days on candy and snack food, but it is good to have that in your kit. We recommend that you have comfort foods in there to keep things familiar in unfamiliar territory, and it helps lift the mood. And so some candy bars and things like that are always good to have in the kit.
That's a great idea.
You also need to remember to throw in some games or other ways to pass the time, puzzles for the kids or electronic games or anything that's going to help keep your family's mind off the emergency and get through those days away from home.
I have 3 gallons of water here. Is that enough for all of us?
Now that's enough for you. You need to figure on 1 gallon per person per day.
Okay.
And so you have enough for you for the 3-day stay, but you have a family of 4.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? Okay. So it looks like you're going to need to pick up some more water and have that on hand. You need to rotate your supply out about every 6 months to make sure you have a good fresh supply in a moment's notice when you need to leave the home.
So what about my non-food items? How did I do there?
Well, it looks like you have, again, a good variety. Looks like you have a blanket with some hats and gloves. Those are important things for cold weather. Emergencies can happen anytime, so it's good to be prepared for that. Things like toilet paper and paper towels for the obvious reasons. You have emergency communications with your radio. You have batteries, which is always good to have with your emergency kit. You have your flashlights. One thing I don't see here is a first aid kit, and that's really a key element to any emergency kit to take care of those cuts and scrapes and bruises that always seem to happen during an emergency. So you'll need to get one of those and put those in to have that ready.
Where do I put this in?
Well, I just happen to have a special gift for you today. This is a special Ready in 3 duffel bag, but really anything will work. You need something that will hold everything that you'll take along in an emergency, but not be so big that you can't move it or so small that everything won't fit in it.
One more trip to the store and I should have everything I need. Thanks so much, Brian, for being with us today. This was wonderful information.
An emergency can happen anytime, anywhere. So to really be prepared, you should have an emergency kit in your car as well. Not quite as big as the one for your home, but with a few of the same items. Things like a gallon of water, food, battery-powered radio, sleeping bag or blankets, flashlight, extra batteries, and first aid supplies. There are also a few car-specific items you'll want to have on hand in case of an auto emergency. Things like road maps, tire repair kit, jumper cables, and flares. It's also a good idea to take a portable emergency kit to work with food, flashlight, battery-powered radio, a copy of your family's emergency plan, a change of clothes, and a comfortable pair of shoes in case of an evacuation. Nothing will slow you down like having to walk several flights of stairs in stiletto heels. At least that's what they tell me. final step to being ready in 3 is to listen for information. But where does that information come from, and how can we trust that it's reliable? Well, we've gone straight to the top to find out. Julie Eckstein is the Director of the Department of Health and Senior Services, and she's here to give you an exclusive behind-the-scenes look at where the state's response to health emergencies begins.
Welcome to the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services Situation Room. I can't tell you where this room is or even show you the outside of the building because this location is top secret. But if an emergency happens in the state of Missouri, our Public Health Action Plan starts behind these doors. The Department Situation Room, or DSR as we call it, is the central location for monitoring and reporting potential problems. We have people on staff here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Emergency information comes to us in several different ways. First, we have a hotline that anyone can use to call to report a public health problem or something they think might be an emergency. Second, we partner with local public health agencies, doctors, hospitals, and law enforcement who all know to call us if they suspect there's a public health emergency or a bioterrorism event. And finally, we are constantly monitoring many different things. For example, our computer system tracks the emergency rooms in hospitals across the state. Folks here always have their radar up, ready to determine when we have an emergency on our hands. Sometimes things might be obvious, like if a bomb explodes. But other times, like if there are a lot of people sick at once, it may not be as obvious. That's why we team up with others to constantly monitor so we know as soon as possible if there's a problem. We work with the FBI, Homeland Security, the State Emergency Management Agency, local police, and others, including the governor, to determine the best response. Our response to an emergency depends on the kind of emergency we are dealing with. The state of Missouri has plans in place for all types of crises, and we've conducted many practice drills for everything from chemical spills to lots of people getting sick and needing medicine all at the same time. But no matter what the type of emergency, a few things always stay the same. We always work with state and local law enforcement and also notify TV, radio stations, and newspapers.
DSR to OPI, over.
That's why it's so important for everyone to listen for instructions.
Thank you, Julie, for your time and for giving us an insider's look at the state's plan to protect the public.
So that's it. You know everything you need to know to be ready for anything.
Now we hope you will take matters into your own hands by creating a plan, preparing a kit, and listening for information.
And once you do, be sure to check your plan and your kit every now and then to make sure everything is still good.
Most of all, we hope you stay alert and remember that emergencies can happen anytime to anyone.
Local, state, and federal agencies have plans to protect us all, but you are responsible for your own safety.
And now you are just 3 easy steps away from being ready in 3.
Designated as a safe room. Okay, that's good. You really need to look at that. Minimal windows, ideally no windows at all. If you have a basement, that's even greater. Basements are just ideal for that sort of thing. But if you don't, a safe room, a bathroom makes a good safe room. Climb in the tub, pull something over you. There's a good way to avoid injury. If you can't do any better than that, that works out really well. So think about how can you harden your shelter, so to speak. How can you make yourself less prone to injury should a tornado strike St. Genevieve and we have 130 or 150 mile an hour winds like they had in Branson the other night. And so that's food for thought. The other thing is when they talk about a transistor radio or they talk about a radio, what they need to clarify really, you almost need 2 radios. You need one, a regular broadcast radio, that AM/FM radio that we're used to using every day. But another radio that we need to consider seriously is a weather alert radio. How many of you are familiar with those? Great. A weather alert radio is very, very important. Can be bought locally. They work with the NOAA weather radio system, and you don't hear a thing from it unless there's a storm coming. And it alerts you as to what kind of storm it is, be it a tornado or a thunderstorm, whatever it may be. And they're just great. So you might want to consider one of those. They've really come down in price throughout the years. You can get a fancy one and it goes up in price a little bit, but it's something to consider. And you know, you might want to ask yourself, what's your life worth and what's your family's life worth? So you might want to consider a weather alert radio. One last thing that I want to touch on real quick. Are there any questions about Radian 3?
Mike mentioned subscribing to 911 text message. You know about that?
I do know about that. Okay. Thank you for bringing that up. There is, 911 does have a text messaging service should there be a weather-related, and I believe they're going to go into other things too, but let's talk about weather. If it's a weather-related event, be it tornado, thunderstorm, warning, things like that, they will text you and give you an advance warning of a storm that's on the way. I have it on my cell phone, and it's really a useful tool. The other night when we had the tornado watch, mine went off about 2:30 in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, and I received a text. So that's something that needs to be looked at. My point, I think your point of contact would be Felix Meyer, and he could help you get squared away on that. He's over at the 911 center, or what used to be the 911 center. He can help you out with that.
Actually, Howard, you can go onto the county's website, the sheriff's department's website, and register that way. And you can actually choose the surrounding areas that you want to receive the information from. And it's just, you just log onto their website and go to their link or whatever. That's the quickest way to do it.
Okay. That's good information to have. The last thing that I wanted to discuss, and I don't have a copy of it, there's one, each of you has one. It's a thing called CERT. It's a handout, it's a color handout called CERT. It's Community Emergency Response Teams. And I'll just briefly touch on this. This is a program that the health department puts on. And we're always looking for new classes to run. We keep these classes with a minimum number of people in them, so we can run classes short. We run these classes, they're 3 days long, or 2.5 actually. And they run, if you look at the right-hand side on the inside, sessions, Session 1, Disaster Preparedness, 2, Fire Suppression. We cover all of those sessions. And on the last day, we actually have an evaluation where you are put into a situation where you have live victims, and you're having to rescue them, and you're using all of the skills that you practiced throughout the class. And it's really quite interesting. It's very helpful. You could save lives. And it is not meant to circumvent the fire department or anybody like that. All it's intended to do is help the community until the rescue teams can get to you. Because let's face it, if a tornado hits St. Genevieve, emergency services are going to be stretched to the max. And so you're going to need some help. And these people are trained to help. And that's the good thing about it. And if you want further information, you can give me a call at the health department at 883-7411. My number's on the back. Be glad to talk to you about it. And we're always ready to start new classes. We'd like to run a class every other month if we could. I think I've just about used up my time. And are there any questions about CERT? Okay. Well, I really appreciate the opportunity to be here today. If you have any questions about anything that we've talked about, as I said, you can reach me at the health department, 883-7411. Be glad to talk to you one-on-one. And I'd like to have you come by my office and I can go into more detail on things for you. I have graphs and charts and all kinds of things I can drag out for you and to help you understand what we're trying to do in the county to help minimize danger to people and minimize danger to people in terms of tornadoes, earthquakes. We're concerned about those things too. And any other type of natural disaster that might strike us. So with that, I'll close my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Howard. Very good presentation. Does anyone else have any other business to discuss?
Just
Dina
briefly.
says yes.
Just briefly to let you know, since next month is our annual banquet, we will not have a regular meeting at the first Thursday, so that our annual banquet takes place of that regular meeting. So we won't see you till April 20th, hopefully, when you buy your ticket.
Anything else? Okay, well, we thank you again for coming, and meeting's adjourned.